listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from. All that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Hey, wow.
You two are in there debating like two politicians.
We are.
Over haggis.
Good morning, Kingston.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
What's going on? We have our other colleague on the phone, Heidi Haynes. Good morning, Heidi.
Good morning, everyone. Good
morning, Heidi.
Heidi, welcome. I'll just mention today's Thursday, March 31st, the last day of March. So if you had any plans or goals or things you wanted to accomplish in March, the deadline's today. So you better get on it.
Can you make it a little louder?
Yeah, Heidi, how you doing?
I'm good. I have no complaints, but that's a lot of pressure, Brian.
Well, sometimes you
can hear us loud and clear, Heidi?
Yes, I hear you.
All right, great. Good, I can hear you now, too.
Heidi, we know how well you respond to pressure. I mean, that showed during your tenure in the Ulster County Legislature. You were always the coolest one there, so you have a cool head, and pressure is not a problem for Heidi Haynes.
Well, speaking of deadlines, the deadline is fast approaching to pass an on-time New York State budget, so...
That's correct.
Yeah.
Bit of pressure there.
I maybe meant that for our state members of our state assembly and legislature and our governor, of course. Yeah, today's the day, right?
Well, tomorrow, end of tomorrow, but yeah.
Oh, it's the end of. Oh, I always thought it had to be in place by April. I guess. Well,
No, April 1st is the deadline.
It's the deadline, so you know.
Yeah, they have a hard stop.
Kind of ironic they chose April Fool's Day for that.
Hey. No, it's just amazing amount of money that it's funny. Everybody's talking about this gas tax, right? Mm-hmm. And when you pay tax on $4 and tax on $2, you're getting that much more money. So it's going to be interesting how they manage this situation. It's tough. What are you hearing? Anything about that?
Yeah, the fuel tax is one of the sticking points.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're trying to do a suspension of the state's gas tax.
It's really funny. We have Harry Wilson on at 8:30, and one of his things, you watch his commercials. Who does he always talking about? He's not gonna worry about that hard stop. And the issue is if they don't pass the budget on the 1st, the legislature, both Assembly and Senate, don't get paid until they pass one.
Yeah, they'll pass it on the 2nd, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, no, but that's true.
Yeah. That was. Did Pataki put that in place?
Oh, gee, that's a good.
I don't remember.
That's a good question. I'm not really sure.
Cuomo was really, when he came into office, we had really we were not doing well with passing an on-time budget, and that was one of the things that Governor Cuomo did was make sure.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was really good at that. Yes.
And of course, it is. There are repercussions if the budget isn't passed timely because our school districts now are all formulating their operating budgets for 22-23 school academic year, and I think the school budget vote, at least here in Kingston, I don't know if it's a statewide date, but I think it's May 10th. So you're only talking maybe 7 or 8 weeks between now and when the voters go to the polls to vote for their school budgets. So
that's really an interesting gig, this school budget situation this year. Yeah. Because once again. A lot of money came into the towns and counties for that specific reason. And, going back to Chuck Schumer, he was absolutely genius. Because when he gave the money to the state, because of Cuomo, he didn't give it to the state. He gave it to each individual town and county.
He made that point when he came to Kingston last
week.
I do want to talk about that a little later. Get into what Senator Schumer, when he came to town with his announcement.
There's a guy we should try to have. It's Joe Pinkin, I think his name is. Good guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I know him well, well enough to be in his first campaign meeting. But, yeah.
So Heidi, how are things out? I'm always. What town are you in? Marbletown, Heidi?
Yep. Yeah, I'm out here in the town of Marbletown. Yeah, everything is grand out here. We don't have much to complain about.
How's your electricity? Is it staying on?
Electricity has been on. The prices have been terrible. But.
It is, and when you have a full house, so you're definitely impacted
Wade
by
makes us walk around with headlamps on now.
Oh.
No, he's seriously looking into solar installation because he wants to get off the grid. It's just, and we definitely don't have a mining rig running or anything like that. So.
No, gosh, people are just really so hard pressed with this.
I can't wait till next week when we speak to this guy again.
Oh, I missed that last time.
Oh well, you can.
It was a good show,
Heidi. You can actually, and there's a message for all our listeners. You can access that on YouTube if you like.
Yep.
You can go back to Kingston Community Radio Archive on YouTube.
Yeah,
just
and,
punch
and
in.
we were actually on YouTube at that
you
day,
are.
so that can be accessed. I thought it was we got.
It was a good show. Yeah, we did. I go back to the customer service side. I still think that's a big problem. They're not answering people. But
yeah, it's definitely been problematic. And like I had said previously, our office, through State Senator Mike Martucci, has been dealing with many constituents calling. And Jane, our staffer, provides them with some information that she has, puts inquiries in on their behalf. And then Central Hudson has been offering some of them different options that they have. But at the end of the day, we just had a perfect storm and a bit of a breakdown with Central Hudson Fortis. It's It's been a terrible, and for as much as I complain, I'm still okay. We don't like it. We don't want to pay that much for service or delivery fees now, so it needs to sort itself out. But Len, what I just can't get through my head, do you remember when we went through the whole smart meter thing? I know you could never forget it.
Oh, no, I can't forget that, Heidi. Terry was the chairman of the legislature, and she beat everybody up about that issue. What's your question, Heidi?
So the thing was, I thought this was supposed to make meter reading so much easier. They just drive by with a truck, they don't get out, boop, they read our meter. Or what? That would be a question I would have had for them.
There you go. Well put.
Heidi, that goes on the list, and maybe then we'll get you to listen next week.
No, listen, and if you have that day, if you're working from home that day, and you can spare a half hour or an hour.
When do you have him coming back, next week or the week after?
Next week.
Next week, the 7th.
By the way, this is a special edition of the Len and Brian Show. Our schedule got shifted a little bit, so we're going to be on 2 consecutive Thursdays. So, Heidi, we'll be on the 7th, next Thursday the 7th again. And Mr. Jenkins from Central Hudson, he's scheduled to be our guest at 7:30.
Yeah, that was a big push for the installation of the smart meters on their part.
It was, and it caused a lot of people problems initially.
Health problems.
Is that right?
And even, it's funny.
Sensitivity to the smart meter.
Yeah. You know what it does? Because of all the smart products, and Heidi, before you put or do solar, I don't know what Wayne is thinking, but he should do it away from the house if he can. Because what happens is everything becomes a magnetic field, and it affects people differently. It's like a peanut butter allergy.
Yeah, it could have some effect.
And it can have really some adverse reactions.
For people, yes. There's good sensitivities to that.
Now, were the smart meters, were they only intended for the more rural areas?
No.
Because I do know for certainty, because I happened to be home the other day, when Central Hudson came by to read my meter, and on my block, the person from Central Hudson was going up the block.
House to house.
Walking the block.
Yeah.
And came to my meters on the side of my house, walked across, because I still plow.
Did they change your meter out?
I have to confess, I've never really looked at.
If it has a little dial on it, right? It's the old meter.
Right.
And if it has a digital readout, it's a smart meter.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to look.
Yeah, take a look.
Because again, something I'm not really. It's on the side of house. It's really not.
Yeah,
on the side of house, which is away from my entryway.
Of course.
I never really have to think about.
And that's why.
And
that's why your bill is triple.
Yeah, well, no, I monitor my bill.
Okay, good.
Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't. What equipment I have fastened on the side of my house, I couldn't necessarily tell you immediately.
No, I have. It's funny. We can get into that conversation heavily. Hey, Hattie, I do have a question for you.
Oh, mine's analog. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, mine is too.
Nice
at the new house.
Slow. It's so beautiful. I'd love to keep my analog.
Hey, Heidi, you ready?
What's up?
Chris Rock or Will Smith?
Okay. What's your question, though?
That's the question. Where do you side?
I side on the side of Chris Rock.
Me too.
Yeah, me three.
Yeah.
Listen, I've actually, my husband, Len, and if he, I know he'd come to my defense ever, I would have been mortified. He could have handled it outside, took it outside after. Even if Wayne would have, went to get up to do something, I would have grabbed him and said, "We'll deal with this another time."
Right, exactly. It really is true, and there's so much history with Will Smith's wife.
There is, but I'm going to say this. There's a lot more and longer history with the Academy Award telecast. And for years, you go back to the era where Bob Hope was the host, then to Johnny Carson, and throughout the years, there's always been it's kind of always been a gentle roast of the nominees.
Right, of course.
And, I don't know that the joke that Chris Rock made was that far out of bounds.
I don't think it was intentional.
I don't know if it was intentional about the condition that
Chris, precisely.
that Will Smith's wife has, but it wasn't. That I wasn't aware of it till after. I didn't know. I don't follow celebrity stuff, but I wasn't even watching the telecast.
Right.
But
I
happened to catch it the next morning.
It didn't show it in the U.S.
But although you can go on YouTube and see the full, but that's where I caught it the next morning. But
Do you know the Academy asked him to leave?
Yeah, that's the report this morning. Yes.
What's that? They asked him.
They asked Will Smith to leave, I guess, after the incident.
Yeah, and he
refused to.
I wonder if they're going to take
got
this.
an Academy Award in his standing ovation.
I get it. Yeah, well, who knows if they're going to take it away from him?
Probably not. Probably not. Though, look at the. I don't know. I just with all that's going on in the world.
Well, and I don't condone violence.
No, not at all.
You know, my dad's always been a big. His thing is keep your hands to yourself.
No,
Everybody
indeed.
I
just think it's just not in keeping with the situation and the decorum.
Well,
of the event.
something else happened. I guess Chris Rock was in Massachusetts last night.
Yes, he was.
And a lot of people want the tickets to see if he had a reaction to the that evening. Well, they all bought tickets for $500 and $600, and he said nothing about it. All he said was, "Well, I guess I'm still reflecting on it," and kept moving on.
Yeah, I saw the video on the Post.
is that right?
Video,
great reaction. He shouldn't feed into it anymore. It was a terrible situation that should not have occurred. I feel it was inappropriate.
Oh, it was terrible.
And it's just more poor behavior by Hollywood. That's what it is.
Yeah. And you know what? It's more poor behavior by public figures who really should be displaying better behavior. It's just breakdown of our society.
Right.
It's lines that are crossed that never should be.
They should be. Politicians are held to a higher standard. People who are in the limelight should be held to a higher standard.
Well, speaking of the higher standard, what about Hochul's husband?
Oh, I disagree.
Don't even get me going.
I know, that's why I said it, Lawrence. That's why I looked over at you.
He's involved with a concession business out in Western New York, right?
Yeah, he's looking to make an awful lot of money of $850 million. He's getting a piece.
Stadium. Good, then maybe he can pay for the Bill Stadium instead of the state of New York because we're $56 billion in debt.
Yeah, we got him going. That was it. Made it.
Heidi, if I could just, without going too far into it because I know, but isn't it interesting and curious the timing of Governor Hochul's announcement with that? I mean, obviously she released her budget, what 6-7 weeks ago, her budget proposal to the...
They took it around the state, yeah.
Right, and then, but the bill stated was never a piece of it until it's like the drop 4 days before they made this announcement, I believe, on Monday of this week
about
the Bill Stadium, that they had a deal in place. Yeah. It was rumored that they were negotiating. Yeah. They said they were close to having a deal. But isn't as curious to me is right at the most pivotal time in the budget process in New York State that this gets dropped the week of, and then. You know what? There's a lot of emotion tied into. There's people who feel mostly attached to the Bills and this and that. They want this stadium. They perceive that as good news necessarily, but to me, the public financing of stadiums is really obscene.
Well, that goes back to Shea Stadium with Citi Field. I mean, it goes back to Yankee Stadium.
When the Dodgers left Brooklyn.
It goes back to that.
Los Angeles handed over the property to Ems Ravine to the Dodgers to build a new Dodger Stadium.
Hey, listen, let's think about the NCAA championships, right? Went from Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yeah, that was big stadiums. Then.
Right. So, and it went to Philadelphia.
By the way, I love that tournament.
So do I. Although I got to tell you, I missed getting my bracket in at the local pub, and I would have been out anyway. Both my teams lost early.
Yeah.
So
here, my bracket is a tale of two brackets.
Oh, is that right?
My bracket is squashed. I had Gonzaga.
I have four of the. I have two of the four Final Four teams. But if you look, it's.
I had Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago going to the Final Four because I like Sister Jean, and I still got Kansas making it to the finals. But no, I was done with Gonzaga. I think everybody in my bracket, everybody in my group had Gonzaga.
Heidi, did you do a bracket for the NCAA tournament?
Ryan, come on.
Last year I won $7,000.
Yeah. Just throw a little golf on top of this.
She's a woman, Brian. She doesn't have to play brackets.
No. Listen, you can't say that, Lawrence. There's a lot of females that
Lawrence.
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I don't expect women to watch football and watch sports. You know what I mean?
Not me. Nope. The only sports I like are the ones that my kids are involved in.
There you go.
Oh, okay, that's good.
There aren't really any.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I have a child in Terry right now. She goes to every ice skating lesson that exists. It's the funniest thing. She's doing a single loop now, Heidi. Very exciting.
She's doing what?
A single loop. It's a jump.
Ooh, that's great.
Yeah. But no, I understand about children in sports. I have one now again.
Well, Lydia was considering track. She came home the other day and she said, my gym teacher says I should do track. I said, that'd be great, Lydia. You should do that. And I said, would you consider it? And like 5 minutes later, she was like, no, I'm not doing track.
Oh.
So no track.
Well, it's good that she knows herself and knows in her own mind. It doesn't feel,
Listen, I don't have any pep talks left in me. And these kids, they'd sign up for something they wouldn't want to follow through, and then I'd have to pep talk them through the entire season.
Lydia's tall enough for volleyball.
Oh, we did that. Don't you remember how that went bad?
I don't remember that, Heidi.
Yeah, that was a bad.
Oh, that's right. I do remember now. Now you're mentioning it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was.
Loved that though.
Yeah, mean girl situation.
Yeah.
But no, it's rough. Hey, listen, these kids today, the challenges. Yeah, there you go. The kids today.
Boy, that's when you know you're crossing to the.
Listen, I crossed it years ago. I'm all right with it.
Bryce turned 20 on Monday.
Is that right? Congratulations. That's wonderful, Heidi.
Yeah.
He's a fine young man. He really is.
No, he's a great kid. He really is. He's just, he's a lot like kids his age just trying to find their way. And it is more difficult, even with the housing situation. It used to be years ago, you can get a couple of buddies and get a nice place. Everyone throws in $100 or so, you get yourself a really nice place. Now you'd be lucky if you could even look at something for $1,200.
I know.
I mean, it's just sad.
And you use the right term, lucky, if you can find that. It's the housing market's on fire. Well, maybe we'll have to have Hayes Clement in again.
Yeah,
we had him as a guest a month or so ago, and he just was remarkable. Some of this.
I wonder that's a good guess because you got to face it. I don't know if this housing market is turning right now.
It's there was a report this morning in the Wall Street Journal. No,
as parents, we have to be prepared to either give him a nice break and let him stay here for as long as he can, or do something because honestly, I just it's so different from the times when we were growing up. At his age, I was moving out already. Bought our first home for $65,000. Put $30,000 down on it, and But what do these kids, in their early 20s? How do they get out of their parents' house? What do they do?
Well, it's really funny, but it becomes an issue of, you get these I hate to say this, but what do they call them? I'm going to call them mobile home, and I'm wrong. It's engineered housing or whatever.
Oh, yeah, prefab.
A prefab. And you can get into these things for a couple $100,000 with land in some cases. So maybe that's the way they go.
Well,
who knows?
If you built your own prefab home, for every $100,000 that you borrow, for it's $100 worth of a payment. So something like that's going to cost you $3,000 a month without your taxes and a mortgage.
Well, I was just going to say, and then add on to your taxes, and it's just and add in the additional factor of really the lack of employment opportunities around here to sustain that kind of.
Yeah. And let's just say this: the lack of available land to put something on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Len, you've seen us. We've cleared out this lot over here, and we're just kind of sitting, figuring out what we're going to do with it.
Hey, listen, we got all the stuff going on with this Ulster,
the housing committee,
Tech City and stuff, and all the stuff that's going on with the new buyers.
Yeah, listen, Cotter, I'm excited and I'm optimistic. I really am. At least we have that. Hopefully, it's going to attract new businesses. It's going to, that's better than what we were dealing with Ginsburg being over there. So I am very optimistic with that.
I happen to share that too. Heidi, I don't know if you saw earlier this week, the Freeman had a really, I'm a big critic of the Freeman, but they had I thought a marvelous chronological story of
read it.
Yeah, how what it took over the years at Tech City to
and what he did, and how he left the taxpayers on the hook, and what our future could look like, and we need to send as much positive energy into that, and stop being so cynical, and and be supportive of somebody who has an idea. Also, Cotter's no joke, let me tell you, and I'm excited and I'm optimistic about that.
But I really have to give kudos to Patricia Doxey. She wrote I thought, a tremendous in-depth story in the Freeman, which was really, really very well done. So I would urge all our listeners. If
That's really going pretty far. Nothing.
But you know what though? Things are what they are, and I'm just acknowledging.
Hey, I'm the first.
Sorry, Elias.
No, I'm the first one to slam the Freeman too. But I happen to miss that article. But I'm going to go back and take a look at
It's
it.
available online. I would urge all our listeners to go back to go. I believe it was published in Monday's edition of probably Tuesday's print edition of the Freeman, but the story was posted on Monday on their website. I would urge the listeners to go back and review that, read that story. It's very interesting because you have to know where you were and how you got here to know where you are now.
Well, that's true. History.
And it's really important to have that perspective, I believe. So I have to, like I said, I'm ordinarily a big critic of the Freeman, but I have to say in this particular circumstance, Patricia Doxey did a great job on that story.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that she did something.
The entire Pat Ryan and his Office of Economic Development and that whole crew there pulling that together.
Yep.
Tim Wiedemann, I have to say that they worked hard to pull that together and to attract someone and bring them to the table for this.
They did, and there's someone else, Heidi, if you don't mind. There's someone else that really needs to be mentioned in that, and she was left out of the chronology, but acting County Executive Adele Ryder back in 2019.
Oh my God,
during again, here we go. It was a crisis with Central Hudson out at Tech City. She really was open to looking at a new pathway and a different pathway for the county to take on that. Because I happened to be in the meeting that day because it was an emergency. We were trying to figure out what we're going to do, and she was open to the fact because the county was hesitant to become a landlord out there, and that was the mindset that they were locked into. But she was open to looking at opening a new path for that. And I think some of the actions she took back in April of 2019 were really helpful and set the stage where, and to his credit, Executive Pat Ryan has continued to act on it. But I also believe we would all be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the role that Adele Ryder played in that.
No, there's
the acting county executive.
And also, you have to throw in there that people or Pat maybe ignoring is a bad word, but certainly not talking to enough, in my opinion, is Jim Quigley. Adele and Jimmy, listen, Jimmy understands that business. And taking that moment in time to understand where his head is going, because there are other large parcels of property that are in the same boat. It's not called Tech City, but you have several other large parcels that are really way behind on taxes.
Jim Quigley lived that.
Sure.
Lived that for his entire term of office, and he also.
And it would be nice to see him get some credit too.
And he did that in the story. He did.
That's my point. But it's very important that it continues that route.
Exactly. So Heidi, is today school day or?
Yeah, but I got a text just a minute ago from Lydia. Let me see what it says.
Good, because Ken Ronk's about to be on the line in about 2 minutes, and maybe you could stay on and we can have a four-way powwow here.
Oh, wait. Ken's calling in? That's
He should be calling in any minute. I'm actually staring at the line waiting for his call.
No, that'll be a great call.
Yeah, good.
I'll jump off. No,
you're not going to jump off. You're going to stay on if you can.
Let's see. Lydia says, "Can I go in later?"
Is she okay? She's not sick or anything, is she?
No, she's sick. She's got schoolitis.
I remember those days. I remember those days.
Remember the days when you used to have to walk down the long hallway to your parents' bedroom and say, "Can I please stay home today?"
Yeah, or I just would try to lock my bedroom door, Heidi.
And now you could just shoot them out a text. Apparently, you don't even have to confront.
My mother never went for that.
Yeah.
No, I had to wake myself up and get myself going because my mom worked.
Though, Brian, you made a comment or made a statement a while back. Your mother always used to give you St. Patrick's Day off.
Yes, she did.
So I come from an Irish household. I had to go to school on St. Patrick's Day.
My mother was from Ireland.
Right.
And in Ireland, St. Patrick's Day is a national holiday, of course, a religious holiday. And on St. Patrick's Day, we went to Catholic school, of course, and if it fell on a school day, Mom would keep us home, and part of our afternoon was spent watching the St. Patrick's Day parade on WPIX
That's so
Channel
funny.
11, would write us a note the next day that she kept the children home because she believes St. Patrick's Day needs to be a holiday. And
I agree.
That's why
I agree with her.
The one principal, Heidi, I don't know if you heard this, but the one principal called my mother and said that it was a legal absence. And this is back in the day when it was a Catholic school, and the hierarchy was then the parish priest got involved, and Monsignor Brennan was the parish priest, and he overruled the principals. He said, yes, Mrs. Waltman's correct. It should be a holiday, so we didn't get in any trouble with it. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, now these kids don't get in trouble for taking a day off from school.
I would imagine if Heidi, I'm sure
I
you
don't
could.
know. I don't know the
Yeah, do they
details on
get
that.
do they get so many absentee days that then?
Yeah, and then you get a letter that they're going to call CPS on you.
What?
Really?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I've gotten that letter.
Come on, because it
Good
was
luck
just
with
in
that.
school suspension when I went. If you did miss so many days, you get suspended
Suspension,
or you
right,
get
exactly.
detention.
Yeah,
and
what's
if you
the-
didn't show up at detention,
Right.
it was in school
You
suspension.
receive a letter that it's poor attendance, and the district will be contacting social services.
Oh my God!
Wow,
It's
you can go to
ridiculous.
jail
So
for
they're,
this
they're
concern.
suggesting that your kid doesn't go to school, that you're a bad parent. I would have stormed into the school.
I'm really okay with that idea, though. Like, I'm not disturbed by that.
Well,
Tell them all day long.
I know you're a great parent.
But yeah, that's the letter you get when you start approaching the threshold, and it's honestly it's a pretty high threshold.
Okay.
See, my son now, he'll be 38
Actually,
this
let
year,
me
so
look
that's
at
all
Lydia's
past me.
report card. Actually, let me see how.
Yeah, you got it in front of you. You might not want to report that on the radio. There's probably a couple thousand people listening right now.
I'm okay.
All right, she must get straight A's
Actually,
then.
but there are the best.
That's probably why.
audience, though.
That's probably why Heidi's letting her sleep in.
We have the best
no,
audience.
Yeah,
so.
we're definitely not straight A's, but we do our best here.
That's good.
So it looks like she had 8 absences when I received the letter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's for the whole entire school year, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that's
How did they
eight
count
doesn't
over-
even seem like
They
that
go to
many.
school 100
Doesn't seem like that many,
They
right?
go to school 184 days.
And they're mad about 8 days. They're going to yell at. God.
I would tell you how to take more off. Really see how you can push them.
Len?
I would push them a little harder and see how many days,
Oh, you just let
before
them
they
stay
come and
home?
inspect the house.
Yeah.
Let's challenge.
You would push the envelope, wouldn't you?
I would. So, hey, Hattie, I do have news. We have a situation where, I don't know if you remember Terry, if she talked to you about the dogs behind bars.
No, I have not heard anything about
Yeah,
it.
well, we did our first meet and greet with a puppy.
Oh, wait, you guys had mentioned this a while back.
Right, and because of COVID, we put on hold. But we get a dog to take home this weekend.
Oh, nice.
Yep, and it looks like we may foster a female 2-year-old.
Oh, and do you know what kind of dog it is?
They're labs. They're all labs.
They're great. They're the best.
The one that we're looking to foster is 2 years old, and basically you keep her while she's with having puppies, pregnant, and then they take her, and she weans the puppies off for 8 weeks, so they're not with you for 8 weeks.
Wait, it's puppies?
The dog has puppies, yeah. Yeah, and they don't have puppies in your house. They send them to their little facility. Pretty interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool. It's a great program. The dog we're looking to foster is a bomb-sniffing dog, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be great. How about kids? You want to take in any teenagers for the weekend?
What? No teenagers.
Perfect party house.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And the party boat.
There you go. We got the party, but we're ready. Yeah.
Thanks, taking a couple.
All right, so Ken Ronk is joining the conversation. Good morning, Ken.
Morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Morning, Ken.
Ken, good morning. Ken, we're on the air here. We're just past the 7:30 half hour. My name is Brian Waltman. We're joined by Len Bernardo here in the studio. It's Thursday, March 31st, 2022, and we're joined by Heidi Haynes, and now the minority leader of the Ulster County Legislature, Ken Ronk. Ken, it's so good for you to join us. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I didn't know that all my friends were going to be in the studio at once. So, it's gonna be a blast.
So we're having a Thursday morning
wrap up.
Yeah, or a gab fest, so to speak. So, Ken, what's news in the legislature? What aside from maybe what we might read in the headlines, whether it be the county looking to maybe suspend a portion of its sales tax on gasoline or some other things.
The $34 million in COVID relief that the county's received.
Yep. What's good to that's a great one. What's good to report, Ken, from the legislature?
Well, I'll tell you this. One of my goals has been to not squander the $34 million in COVID relief from the federal government, and that's harder than you think. In Ulster County sometimes. But, two things that we're doing with it that I think have a real impact on folks in Ulster County, on our towns, and really on long-term problems the county's had are we're using some of the money to clean up old brownfields, properties that are contaminated either by oil. Like in my district, we have a junkyard that has been foreclosure eligible for about 10 years.
Yep.
They owe approximately $500,000 in back taxes, but the county won't take it for tax foreclosure because if we took it, we'd have to clean it up, and we don't know what kind of a mess it is.
You see, Brian,
so it could be a little mess, could be a big mess.
It's funny, Kenny, you mentioned that. But that's precisely what we're talking about with Jimmy Quigley. Yep. So you have one of those up by you, huh?
Yep. Yeah. It's an old junkyard. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some money, some of the $34 million, and we're going to do phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments so we can get these properties classified.
Yep.
Because once they're classified, we can qualify for state and federal brownfields and environmental remediation money.
Yeah.
If it's oil problems, we can qualify for money from the New York State Spill Fund.
Yeah.
If they're really, really big problems, we can qualify for EPA money. But the problem is that they've never been classified because the county can't take it for foreclosure. So we're going to have to try and use what's called a temporary incidence of ownership, which is where the court gives us the ability to go in and do some of these environmental studies without actually taking on the liability for the taxpayers.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that everyone looks for the sexy thing, the things that sound really great. But these are the things that can really make a difference. And I've always tried to care a little less about the credit and the back patting and care a little bit more about getting actual things done for people.
Well, it has more impact, Kenny. Kenny, can I ask you a question about that piece of property, not knowing it at all? Does it have water, or is it well? Do you know?
It's no water.
No water?
Well, Ken, just from what I'm hearing, it looks like this would have, and what your objectives are for this one-time infusion of cash or federal money, is you're looking to derive lasting and continuing benefits for the residents of Ulster County. Not something that's going to be a one shot or something that would result in lingering, continuing payments down the line.
Absolutely, and some of the things that we've been doing have been good. I think Legislator Joe Maloney actually proposed using quite a bit of the money to help towns with water and sewer infrastructure. And again, one-time money, one-time infusions of cash like this should be used for things that you wouldn't normally do in the normal course of business. They shouldn't be used for your operating expenses. They shouldn't be used for things that you were going to do anyway and just, oh, look, now we have money, we don't have to spend the money we budgeted for it. It should be used for things that you wouldn't have normally done, and quite frankly, should be used more for capital expenses than anything. Because, when you use a grant to pay for salaries and things of that nature, then you're creating a long-term liability.
That's a failure. Yep.
You're setting yourself up. It's funny what you just said about getting credit. You kind of reminded me of something Harry Truman said. The object and its accomplishment is my philosophy. You know, that's it. I mean, you're not looking to necessarily get the credit for, take credit for it. It's the accomplishment. That's what you're looking for. And you kind of, I don't know how you feel about Harry Truman, but I would suspect at least he's one Democrat you can maybe admire.
Absolutely.
Well, though they were, that's a different kind of Democrat.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about day and night, and I want to get into that conversation. So, Kenny, you know, obviously, I'm sure it's a little bit of a struggle being the minority. But you have Gina Hansett. How's she doing?
Gina's doing very well. You know, it's definitely, you know, she's got a lot more history and a lot more just knowledge about the long-term county than a lot of people, because she's the fourth person in her family to serve in the legislature.
That's right.
Started out with her dad, and then when her dad passed away, Liz took over. She unfortunately just passed away.
Yeah, she passed away just yesterday, the day before, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, Gina's sitting in a nice seat too in the back row there. So
in the back row. I put her there for some good juju from you, Heidi. So.
Yes.
The back row was a great place to
and
be.
then obviously her husband Paul, a good friend of mine, and then her. So she talks about we talk about things that happen in the county, and then she talks about being a small child while it was going on, and while Danny was dealing with the problems, and it's interesting. I mean, we are a pretty deep minority in the county right now, but when people need to get things done, and you need to find the reasonable people in the room, members on the other side of the aisle look to our side of the aisle.
Well, that's good.
And I'll tell you this, it doesn't mean we can't get things done, because the gas tax cap that was put forward before Dutchess County came out with theirs, and before Pat put out his favorite thing, press releases about coming up with the idea. We've been talking about it for a month and already had a resolution drafted.
Yeah.
So our caucus is the sponsor of that resolution to save people real money at the gas pump.
Yeah. Well, it's really an interesting situation, because you have the county looking to reduce their portion of the tax, and the state looking to increase it by 55 cents. So you figure that one out.
I'll tell you this. I know I've spoken to some Democrats that will remain nameless in the legislature right now, who have said that they don't support capping the gas tax, because the gas tax is necessary to get people to use less gasoline.
Okay. Heidi, jump in with your question.
Yeah, Ken, could you speak a bit about the EMS?
I'd love to. So, everybody knows, I think, that there is a EMS crisis going on right now. And, that's another place that we're spending a little bit of the ARP funding. The problem is like tenfold. But the first problem you have with EMS is that the state does not consider it an essential service.
Correct.
Now, that gets a little wonky, but pretty much the best way I can explain the problem with that is that, the state doesn't require towns to pay for it. So nobody has to properly fund emergency medical services. And, I'll give you the example I always give, and it makes some of my friends a little unhappy, because I'm a captain at Walkill Ambulance and an EMT, but I'm also a volunteer firefighter at the Walkill Fire Department. And so the fire department and ambulance corps are a direct overlay. We serve all of the same residents. The fire department responds to about 175 calls a year, between 150 and 200 in that area, and they have a budget from the taxpayers of $660,000. The Walkill Volunteer Ambulance Corps serves the same amount of people. Last year, we were dispatched to 498 calls, so you're looking at 3 times the call volume, and we receive $85,000 from the taxpayers. So we have 1/7 of the budget of the fire department from the taxpayers, and we do 3 times the number of calls.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation, isn't it, Kenny? But it's funny. Being a commissioner of fire and a driver for the ambulance, and understood those numbers as well as you do. The cost of equipment is very, very different as well. With that said, the importance of EMS is staggering. You're saving people's lives every day with 1 or 2 pieces of equipment, and some of this equipment is old. So getting to Kenny's point, it needs some help.
That's true. And here's the thing. The thing about the equipment line is the equipment being more expensive. The apparatus and everything.
Right.
It's all relative.
Correct. I'm talking about number of pieces, Kenny. So forgive me. I'm not trying to disagree. I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly here.
Not at all. But again, because that's the thing that you hear from the fire side when you talk about EMS, being underfunded is, well, the work's different. Roger Rasco, God rest his soul, was the treasurer of the Ymca Valley Fire Department, and he and I would have arguments all the time about this. And he would say, well, I got $6 million of apparatus sitting in my firehouse. That's why the fire department gets more money than ambulance corps. And I said, yeah, that's great. I said I could spend $6 million.
Right.
I could have 2 ambulances. We only have 1 right now.
Oh, is that right? You should have 2, by the way, Kenny.
I don't disagree with you, but we don't have the money. So.
Right.
Well,
it gets very deep.
It shouldn't be, though, as someone just looking at it from someone in the city who we have our own paid fire department. It shouldn't be an either-or situation. It shouldn't be we can fund our fire department, but necessarily we can't fund the EMS corps, because I don't think it should be.
They're not taxing authorities. That's what Kenny said. Well, that's because of Albany.
Right.
That's where you get into that fudge.
Kenny, I'm sure there's insurance costs associated with it too, or.
Insurance, yeah, I'll tell you. I think our insurance payment is somewhere in the area of $35,000.
Well, then you should leave the county. We did that at Accord. We saved a ton of money.
Yeah.
We did.
I know. That's for workman's comp, right?
That's that's your largest insurance cost.
It is. Ours also, though, because of the ambulance and everything that goes in, that's liability.
Right.
We have huge liability insurance.
Yep. No, I get it. Believe me, you can see where the costs go on those facilities.
This is a problem, though, that's being faced by many municipalities throughout the entire state of New York. So it's not unique to us at all.
No.
And I do think Ken's heading up a committee, a task force, correct, Ken?
Yeah, so I've been pushing for quite some time, and the executive finally, gave in and joined me on it. We have a EMS task force made up of, professionals in the business. We've got the former CEO of Mobile Life Supports on there, Scott Wosby. We've got Everett Erickson and Mike Gaffney from Emergency Services. And really what we're coming up with is, we don't want, a lot of these committees will spend a lot of money on consultants to say, all right, what's the problem? Well, we all know what the problem is. There's several problems. It's the state, it's the locals not funding it properly because they don't have to, and quite frankly, it's staffing. Right now, I just became an EMT. I passed my certification exam on February 8th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, it's a lot of work to become an EMT.
How many hours is it now, Kenny?
What's that?
How many hours is it now?
150.
Is it really? Wow, that's hands-on time, by the way, guys. That's a lot of personal time.
Hours in class.
Yep.
And then, so you take the class, 150 hours in class, plus the studying that goes on outside of class, which, they say for every 1 hour in class, you got to study 2 hours out of class. And then you take your New York State practical exam,
right,
where you have to demonstrate to a group of proctors and instructors that the hands-on, stuff about being an EMT.
Right.
And then after that, you take a comprehensive New York State certification written exam.
Correct.
And then after that, you get to be in the EMT for 3 years and then do it all over again.
Yeah.
And just so it's clear to our listeners, these are for volunteer positions.
That's correct.
Let's just
But
keep that in mind.
but here's the other side of that coin.
Mhm.
Once you have that certification, you can get paid.
You can, but
you can work for a paid
But
right.
in circumstances like Ken and a lot of our rural
Right.
areas, they're largely volunteer, right?
Yeah, and then that's the problem is
it
once
is.
they get the certification, they go to a paid.
A paid, yeah, a little mobile one or something like that. Right.
So here's here's the thing. So we've got three really smart people, in the studio right now. How much do you guys think the average EMT gets paid per hour in the Hudson Valley?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to say $20.
Okay.
No,
Brian?
I think it's.
I'll go on the. I'm going to go on the lower side. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. I'm going to go $17.50.
Yeah, I think it's between 15 and 17, unfortunately.
So I think Brian, you're about right now. So pre-COVID, EMTs were making about $15 an hour. The COVID-19 pandemic really exacerbated problems, and really, again, with the COVID extra unemployment and everything that went along with that, you had a lot of people leave the business because, am I going to put my life and my family's health on the line, for $15 an hour, or am I going to go home and make $25 an hour on unemployment?
All right.
So, so you had a lot of people leave the business, and then you've got people who don't want to work, these terrible hours, because it's 12-hour shifts at least, and then, because of short staffing, you end up getting held over for 6 more hours. Some people left the business for other jobs at that point. With the minimum wage rising, would you rather flip burgers for $15 an hour, or would you rather, do CPR in the back of a moving ambulance? Wages have
And
gone
sticking
up.
people with IVs, by the way.
Paramedics do that, not us, but yes.
But you never know, though, what circumstance you're going to encounter on any given call.
You don't, and quite frankly, the problem of wages has caused a staffing problem, which has caused wages to rise a little bit. But again, because it's such a niche and you need the certification, all these companies plus the volunteer agencies they're competing for the same people. It's not like the group of the pool of individuals isn't increasing enough. So really, you're bidding against one another. And then, and Heidi and Glenn, you're right. It is the volunteers leaving for paid. I mean, we've got great volunteers at Walk Hill Volunteer Ambulance, where I volunteer, who, they've been taking more and more shifts because, when you get offered double time, how do you not take it?
Correct.
And then that's a shift that he can't do as a volunteer.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting problem and question, because you look at a town like Olive, right, where they pay their ambulance service, right? They have it, whatever. I think they're paying somewhere, as Kenny's suggesting, about $15 to $17 an hour. I thought it went up to 20, but that's a different issue. But
a lot of the volunteer agencies are having to pay 20 because they have to lure them away from the paid agencies.
yeah, that was my point of 20. But the real issue is, so now not only the volunteer people are not staying in their own town, but they're going in surrounding towns that are paying.
I see.
It's really an interesting problem.
Ken, just so I can understand, because I happen to be a City of Kingston resident, and I think we're mostly covered by paid ambulance companies. In Ulster County, if you looked at it as a whole, what is roughly the percentage of the area that's covered by volunteer companies such as yours in Walk Hill, or paid or covered by paid? Is there a way to I'm just trying to understand this.
I want to see how he answers this, because I have a different answer, I'm sure. Maybe the same answer. Go ahead, Ken.
That's a complicated question.
I know.
Yeah, it is.
There's 3 different kinds EMS services. There's fire-based EMS services where the
Right.
fire department also has EMS involved. There are not-for-profit ambulance corps that operate, as a contracted agency with the town. And then there are the areas where there's a paid, and then there's hybrids. Like right now, Ellenville Rescue,
Correct.
they have a paid paramedic on staff, and now they are paying a driver during the day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Correct. And that's because Accord Cohongson couldn't manage the calls. They didn't have the personnel either.
But that's part of it, but also, and it's funny because for the first time in a long time, we've got two certified EMTs as county legislators, myself and John Gavaris from Ellenville. And funny enough, John and I actually ran into each other one Sunday night at the hospital in Middletown, Garnet Hospital. I was leaving the hospital after bringing a patient. He was bringing one in. I said, this is probably the first time that's ever happened.
That's probably right.
Likely, yeah.
Yeah, it's
but Ellenville is having trouble even getting a driver during the day. And the whole point of having the paramedic is that at least you have somebody on scene in the beginning to start patient care, which might be one of the solutions that the county is that the county could help fund first response ALS.
Hey, Kenny, is TJ Briggs still driving?
TJ Briggs is an EMT again. He took the class back.
Oh, did he? Wow. Okay.
So are these certifications, they have to be renewed, Ken?
Every 2 years, yeah.
Every 3 years, they need to be renewed. Because of COVID, the State Department of Health has extended EMT certifications for an extra year twice. So actually, I just became an EMT, and I immediately got an extra year. So I'll be, I have 4 years. So there's two ways you can get recertified. You can either take a refresher course where you go in, you take the test, you take a practical, and then whatever portions you didn't pass to their satisfaction, you have to then take again in the class and then take the state certification exam the next time it comes up. Or you can do continuing medical education credits, CMEs, and you have to get a certain number of hours in each of the categories and then challenge the exam with the instructor.
Oh, right.
So
Wow. It's quite a commitment, Ken.
Hey, Kenny, let me ask you another question on the real issue, not getting too much into the kinds of calls, but have you seen an increase of calls on the drug abuse side at all, or have you noticed it?
I haven't. We haven't seen that. We've seen a lot more mental health calls than opioid calls in our district. Thank God.
Good.
But really, mental health has taken a real deep turn during the pandemic.
I'm sure. Hey, Ken, if I could, we're coming up almost against the top of the hour, but I just want to get a question back into the legislature. Coming up for the April session of the legislature, what are something that the citizens should be focused on that is be like an important or a hot button issue in the coming up in the April meeting at the county legislature?
Well, we have good cause eviction is coming back up again. So definitely keep an eye on that one. I believe Joe Maloney is going to be trying to decrease the size of the legislature, which I actually support. From 23 to 17.
That's actually good.
It's great. It would be awesome. I think that my ideal size is 9, but I'm not sure it's going to get there the first time.
They have in Sullivan.
What's that?
Sullivan County, they have 9.
I don't see it, but from 23 to 9, I don't see that happening right away.
No, I don't either. No, I'm not suggesting that's the case.
But that's what they have in Sullivan.
But 17, honestly, the supermajority is harder to get.
Yeah.
That's what, that's why I really want to make that move.
Agreed. So, and quite frankly, the gas tax. I mean, this is something that is really affecting us right now. When you go to the pump and you see it's over $4 a gallon, I mean, what people forget about gas prices, is that, everything that we buy has to be transported in some way, shape, or form by diesel fuel. And diesel fuel was up above $5 a gallon.
Yes, it is. You see that at the pump every day.
I mean, it's everyone can joke about inflation and what a crap job Biden's doing, but when you look at the average cost of groceries, when you look at the inflation that rose 7% in February, I mean, it's unsustainable. It's dangerous for our economy, and it really hurts the everyday people. I know
Hey, Kenny, it's killing the senior citizens.
Yep.
It's really having an impact on their...
We got a 3% increase in our Social Security tax, and it's inflation.
Ken, if I could also ask you about the legislature, Ken, the meeting this month, are the legislative meetings open to the public again, like before, or are there still some protocols in place?
Public is welcome. Masks are not required. Of course, if you're not feeling well, please wear one. But you're welcome to come back to the 6th floor of the county office building at 244 Fair Street on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. I don't have my calendar open, so I can't tell you exactly what day it is this month, but the 3rd Tuesday night, 7 p.m.
That would be April 19th, that would be.
Public is welcome.
Okay, great. Well, listen, not to cut you short, Ken, we skipped the 7:30 hours so we could have all four of you together, so we got to go to a break.
Heidi, thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, Kenny.
Heidi, I think it's going to stay on. Ken, thank you so much for calling in this morning. We got to get you back on soon, okay?
My pleasure, whenever you want.
All right, Ken, have a great day.
Kenny, be careful.
All right, so we're going to go to a break real quick. Heidi, you don't mind holding on?
Sure.
Okay, great. We're going to go to a break. We'll be back in a few, folks.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
A powerful community bank is one that has leaders that are involved in their community. At Rondout Savings Bank, they invest in the success of our community by working side by side with local people and local businesses. When you choose to bank Rondout, you are part of a bank that is dedicated to the future of your success and the success of your community. Rondout Savings welcomes you to open an account today and discover what it means to be part of a powerful community bank, one that knows you by name. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and our community, with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
He was not a college.
Okay, we're back. Heidi, you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Excellent.
Heidi,
I take it
girl.
your daughter's still sleeping?
Oh, I'm sure. Either that or she just got her bedroom door locked.
Well, Heidi, it's a great treat to have you still with
Yeah,
us.
it's awesome.
Almost,
It's like the old days.
I'm sorry you're not here in the studio with us. We really could have had a nice
Yeah, I would have bought
committee
breakfast for
meeting
everyone.
here.
We could have bought the cot.
But anyway,
you should
good
know,
morning.
though, the only reason I'm here also is because I'm working remotely today.
Oh,
so-
wonderful.
Oh, okay, good.
Wonderful.
So it actually worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I texted you yesterday, I figured it was going to be for 10 or 15 minutes like it normally is every Thursday.
Yeah, typically I would be on my way to Orange County by now.
Right, right. And how long of a ride is that from your house to...
I'll answer this, Heidi. Too long.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning, March 31st, 2022, last day of March. As anyone who's an avid listener to our show here on Kingston Community Radio knows that at 8 o'clock we have a tradition, and our tradition is a birthday celebration.
That's it.
So we have a few birthdays to read off today. The first birthday is please wish a happy birthday to Bill Calderera from Family and Friends for today, Thursday, March 31st. Also, and now it's interesting, of all these birthdays, I know 2 out of the 3 that we're going to have of the people. Thursday, March 31st, happy birthday to Scott D'Amico, a former alderman in the city of Kingston. And
Yeah,
I
Scott
just saw Scott about a week and a half ago. I saw him in City Hall. He's looking good. And just, Scott, if you're listening, happy birthday to you. Again, it was really great to see you the other day. And a special happy birthday for March 31st to Tom Turco.
Whoa, Tommy boy.
Happy birthday. He's our new our chairman of the Ulster County Republican Committee, and really just a terrific individual.
And former head of the Board of Elections, right?
Yeah, exactly, Commissioner.
He's former commissioner of the Board of Elections, and he's retired from that, and he stepped right in as our Republican chairman.
I saw Tommy not too long ago at the Republican convention in Long Island. He looked great.
I saw him last week.
Yeah.
But now...
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Am I early?
You jumped in the gun, Len.
That was a premature ring.
All right.
You jumped the gun.
Oh, no, hold on. I got the bell in my hand.
He loves that bell.
On the offense, 5-yard penalty, repeat first down. Okay, the birthday winner of the famous Boyce House cow pie for March 31st is Bill Calderera.
Hey, wait, I have my own cowbell. Hear it?
We need more cowbell.
Well, we have another one. It's just really too annoying.
Bill, congratulations and happy birthday.
Yeah, that one's the good one.
Be sure to pick up your famous Boyce Brothers Dairy Milk House cow pie at the Boyce Brothers Dairy at 62 O'Neill Street at Kingston, New York. I was there yesterday. I bought their sour cream yesterday. So
That's sour cream. You can't even eat any other sour
I'm
cream.
going to find that out tonight. But anyway, Bill, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to all the people who sent in their birthdays for today, and a special happy birthday to everyone anywhere that's celebrating their birthday.
That's
today.
right. And if you want to get on the Kingston Community Radio birthday list, it's easy. You can send me a postcard at P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402, or you can email me at kcr921@gmail.com. I recommend you send it at least 10 to 14 days prior, and you will probably have a really good chance of winning that cow pie.
There you go.
There you go.
Heidi, I want to thank you for staying on with us, but I also especially want to thank you for that EMS question for Ken in the last half hour. That was really insightful, and for someone, again, who lives in the city of Kingston, we're not necessarily cognizant of the vitality and how important the volunteer ambulance corps are to the rest of Ulster County. I would dare to say, like our volunteer firefighters in the rest of the county, it's just our life as we know it simply would not be possible in the county without that service.
Truth be told, every town is under pressure right now with this issue. It's not just one, and I think that's the biggest issue.
That was pretty made clear. And Heidi, again, I do want to thank you for that question. That's something that just wasn't on my radar to have asked Ken about, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been coming for quite a while now. When I worked in Amador, I saw this up in, hill towns out in Amsterdam and, Montgomery County. It first came to our attention. And again, it's something that affects many, especially the rural areas and rural districts. So we do take for granted when you have a paid EMS, but volunteer, it's just completely different. And if we don't figure it out, we're all going to move to paid. And then the taxpayer's really going to feel it. So we have to do something.
Well, indeed. Like I said, life as we know it in our county wouldn't be possible without either our volunteer fire corps or these ambulance EMT services.
Yeah, it's really tough, but it becomes a point where I hate to even say this, but it's somewhat true. Even the local governments, the town governments, it's been going on for so long. They've become somewhat callous to it, and they've become callous because they can't do anything about it. You know, if you look at the town of Rochester, you know, their contribution to the ambulance squad was $5,000 or $6,000 a year. Most of it, we had a great fundraiser years ago at skate time, but they depend on every single thing they can. And we did this tag sale that raised nearly $10,000, and that was the largest fundraiser they've ever had. So they're raising money like $1,000 at a time. It's really difficult, you know, when you have a rig that probably could cost $50,000-$60,000 or more today, probably.
Oh, more, yeah.
Right, maybe $100,000, you know, from the time I've been in it. But it's really a challenge, and it's every town. It's not just it's not isolated.
Individually, the towns simply do not have the resources to.
Well, you know, it's like everything else. Do they have the resources? Don't they have the resources? Right. So when they look at
you
these
individually, they can't. This is something they can't do.
Again, I'm going to always go back to no. It's town to town is a problem, but the issue is you ask how they could help them. It goes back to the county budgets. Is the counties, you know, how they want to spend money? Like some of this 34. Well, can you buy, you know, Shamgum another rig? You know, with that $34 million. I'm just hypothetical, obviously, because it's a one-time kind of a charge. The upkeep's up to the ambulance squads. But what does equipment mean? Having redundancy, how important is that?
The equipment is only one aspect. It would need to take a multi-pronged approach to rectify this because
you
still have the volunteer, you know, people aren't coming forward, recruitment's been down, the training is difficult to obtain, you know, all of those hours, you know, what Kenny went through was no small feat. So it's, again, it would take a multi-pronged approach to figure this out.
You know, and even some of these fire companies, quite frankly, the volunteers are so difficult to get. You know, some of these people who are on these volunteer fire companies are aging. You know, and you can't depend on a guy to go interior. You know, that's aging. It's really a big problem.
Artie, I'm going to tack off on a different subject. It was talked about a little bit on another show on this radio station not too long ago. Obviously, when we changed from standard time to daylight savings time. Heidi, I just want to, as a parent of a student, your daughter, she needs to leave. If she were going to be bused to school, she would have to leave quite early in the morning, correct?
Yes, Lydia's bus comes about 6:30 a.m.
That's early.
Middle of the night.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Yes, it's still dark out, and you know, I live down a long driveway, so like even right now, bears are coming out of hibernation. I know that sounds crazy, but you know, the bear comes out of hibernation. I would never let her, and it's not, you know, she's 15 years old, but I wouldn't let her walk alone down the driveway, and it's not because of other issues, but mostly because of the bear.
No, that's
so
right.
Last
That's a
week
wise
when we
move.
got home, the garbage cans up and down. Like, he tore up the neighborhood. He must have just come out of
Right, he's hungry.
She just got out of hibernation. So again, yes, Lydia's bus would come around 6:30, and I'd have to drive her to the end of the driveway. And we here in our household, we wait for the bus. The bus doesn't wait for us. Again, I've learned that through our family business, the bus business.
Right.
And
so let me ask you real quick. Is this day number 9 now on the absent list if she doesn't go today?
Let's not.
Probably day number 10.
Oh, so are you expecting a visit from social services?
Now, come on, let's not go. Let's not even. But anyway,
I want you to challenge
If you need
it.
some muscle, I could come out there and help.
Yeah, Lawrence, and I want you to challenge this bad boy.
Well, they might want to think twice about it, because the Bears out of high.
That's what I was thinking.
Anyway, the reason I bring up the daylight savings time thing, I enjoy when we flip over to daylight savings time. Yeah, we lose a little daylight in the morning, but we'll gain it back in April. But what people don't realize, if we were to remain on daylight savings time throughout the year, in the months of December and January, we wouldn't have daylight in our area here until 8:20, almost 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's not good.
What many people may not recall is that back in 1974, I recall because I was in school.
I definitely don't recall it because I was
No, you don't.
Me too. I was in the same boat you were.
The United States that year remained on daylight. Actually, went back in January of '74. Moved to daylight savings time 3 months earlier than they ordinarily would have, and it caused a lot of problems. Particularly, it caused problems with students in the morning going to school. There were a couple fatalities, sadly enough, with those students that were just involved in accidents going to school, and I just think.
So there's someone that's trying to flip that, right?
For the burden of changing your clocks twice a year, and get the optimal amount of daylight in our area, I think it's a worthwhile thing, and we've been doing.
We're used to it.
Well, I don't think it's that big. It's not that onerous, and I think if we were to remain on if we remained on standard time, we would deprive ourselves of those long, beautiful summer evenings.
Right.
If we remained on daylight savings time, we'd have some really hardships during the winter months. And I just think people just need to take a minute, download a sunrise sunset calendar, take a look at it, and just understand that that December 31st, New Year's Eve, the sunrise would have been. If we remain on daylight savings time, 8:24 in the morning.
Right.
I feel like it rises that late every morning.
Yeah, well,
yeah. It's funny because Brian asked me this question earlier, and I looked at the fact some people actually suffer, physically with the change. I don't. I
don't like the spring ahead. I like the fall back. I like gaining the hour, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It takes me like a week or
there you go.
10 days
I said
the spring to catch up. I was late to work one morning a couple of weeks ago because I'm just used to waking up at 5 o'clock. Now I'm waking up at 6:30.
Right.
I'm good now.
Right.
But my body clock,
there you go.
I haven't set an alarm clock in 11 years.
That's what I was telling you. That's it. Some people take a week to get past it. It's true. It's fact.
It is true. But we have the discussion. It comes up, it seems, twice a year.
Yeah.
And
not now. Are we going to keep it?
No, actually, the Senate had a vote. The U.S. Senate vote had a, how should I say it? It passed without objection.
Okay.
So it goes over to the House. I don't think it's going to pass the House of Representatives. I don't think it's going anywhere now. By the way, I think they have a few other things they need to work on in the House of Representatives.
Speaking of which, isn't that crazy what's going on right now up there, huh? Everything's a little upside down.
Yeah. And, of course, we have the situation in Ukraine.
It's really funny. But to give a plug to Warsing, this past week, they had a kind of a festival for the UK, raising money for the Ukraine.
I saw photos of that.
Isn't that interesting? Well, Denise Cummings is this young lady, very nice. She lives in Lake Louise Marie, and she come up with that sunflower project. And to bring sun to everybody and light brings awareness.
That's a extraordinarily dangerous situation. And
it is.
There are reports that there may be there's some retreat, but I would be wary of that. I think it just may be a repositioning of assets that they're having right now, and I was just Russia's having right now. So again, it's an extraordinarily dangerous situation for our world. And
speaking of which, Steve Newhouse, County Executive of Orange County, is deployed right now there.
I remember you mentioned that.
And he was on. Matter of fact, Lawrence, I'm going to give their office a call because he calls in the States from time to time, and it's early in the morning. Just to have a couple of minutes with him, get his viewpoint may be fun. Yeah. But no, when you look at things like that, now he's deployed till May, that he knows right now. But it could go longer.
It could be extended then?
It could be extended more.
Heidi, if I might ask you, there's obviously the situation in Ukraine is getting pretty widespread coverage in our news media, no matter what news you choose to view or read. As a parent of two younger persons, young adults, have they been following it or impacted, or does it raise concerns with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, especially Lydia, she just seems to absorb everything. She's a bit more emotional about stuff. So, you know, I have to watch what we say around her, but she's, you know, she has her social media and she reads things herself. As for Bryce, you know, he has 2 friends who are in the military right now, who are currently serving. So, yeah, it does have an impact on them, and they do comment on it, on the state of affairs over there and how they feel personally about it. It's, you know, my grandmother, my 91-year-old grandmother, I was with her on Sunday, and she's always had big concerns regarding Russia. And she said to me, she put her hand on my knee, we were eating dinner on Sunday, and she said, the only way that I can say this, Heidi, is since this pandemic, we've gone up in the air, and we've twisted around, and we still remain upside down. I'm so sorry that you have to go through these hard times.
Yeah.
And she says, I hope that we don't stay upside down like this for too much longer.
You know, it's so crazy, but there's always a crisis in the United States. We've come out and in and out of stuff so many times, but I guess it's, you know, I'm getting a little older. I think I feel it more, actually. I actually feel the pressure of what's going on in Ukraine more than ever. And you know, we were talking about this with our family. You just don't know why you feel this pressure, but it's there. It's in your face. Maybe it's because the media cycles and all this other stuff, but it's always something right in front of your face.
Oh, it is. And
you know.
You know, it's funny, for someone my age, I'm 59 now. It seems like since the Iranian hostage crisis in November '79, it's been one constant crisis after another. And now I know Vietnam was before that, but when Vietnam ended for us, the United States, in '75, between that, there were a few relatively quiet years we had in the late '70s as far as world crises were perceived. We had of course, always the threat of with the Soviet Union at the time, but never the Cold War. But nevertheless, there were a few quiet years, and I guess that's when I was coming of age. But it seems to me that since November of '79, when the Iranian hostage crisis and the subsequent Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, right on the heels of that, it's just been one thing after another through all the way through. And it's just it's just a little. I'd like to get off the ride for a bit. You know?
Well, it's interesting. We had the fall of the Berlin Wall.
The fall of the Berlin Wall,
You know.
but at the same time, though, that occurred when we had the first Gulf War, and
correct.
You
All
know,
around
it was pretty much simultaneous with that, and it just seemed like one thing after another.
7-Day War it was.
You know, it just of course then we had 9/11, just one thing after another. The long protracted wars we had in Iraq and Afghanistan ourselves, the United States. It just seems, for someone of my generation, it's been a cascading series of events. Johnny Carson used to joke about a slow news day, and for God's sakes, I would just love to have one slow news day.
Well, now with the way the media is today,
Yeah, I don't ever see that happening, because
that's
they'll
not gonna
concoct
happen. I
something
agree.
up. So.
But getting to our next guest, which is a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking to Harry Wilson, a candidate well, actually not a candidate yet. They're still petitioning.
Well, we get him petitioned, because we got to get rid of the gerrymanderer we got now.
So he'll be coming up. But with that said, you know, I had to make a comment this week on Facebook, because someone said that Lee Zeldin was the official candidate. Well, he's not the official candidate. There's no official candidate until after the primary.
Right. And what day is the primary, Len?
28th of June.
Okay.
I mean, what Lee Zeldin, just so our listeners can understand, when he did prevail at the convention.
That's all it means, but
he prevailed at the convention, and if there were if no one else circulated enough petitions, Lee Zeldin would have been on the ballot without having to.
That's right, and that's the only.
That's the extent of what it was, right?
That's it. So he had the right not to petition, and that's it.
He's
bottom
more
line.
of an endorsed candidate.
No, not because. You see, this is where it gets really sticky.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be endorsed. All that was a vote of confidence to him at the convention.
Right, but it
which
is
means,
true, though, Len, that if no one else circulated
no,
petitions,
but they are.
But they are, right. And if for some reason they don't meet the requirement, break the threshold requirement,
correct.
Then Lee Zeldin would be on the ballot without having to circulate.
That's absolutely correct.
Right, that's just.
But getting back, this goes back to the first time Cuomo ran, right? you had Lazio and Palladino. Lazio came out of the convention. Palladino won the primary. Right. So there's no decided candidate until June.
Listen, if I could just interject here,
Mm-hmm.
because we tend to swim in the pool of politics.
I'm sure you do.
So, Len, when you speak of who the official candidate is, and we're actually splitting hairs at this point, and I know it matters to you and the other candidates.
Well, it should matter to the populace of the New York State.
But you have to realize, though, and again, people don't swim in the world of politics.
No, Hattie, I'm disagreeing with you, and I hope you understand this with
you
due
haven't
respect.
Even you haven't let me finish my point. So they don't understand the petitioning process, Len. Okay?
Right, and what's the most important thing of life, Heidi? Education.
Let's
Let Heidi speak.
Get through her what she
I'm
wants to say.
trying to say that, we've seen this. You and I have run multiple campaigns, and we've petitioned, and we've knocked doors. But the average American citizen, New York State, registered voter, is not familiar with this process. Okay, so we have to give them the latitude of, again, I believe it should be their due diligence to understand that somebody knocks on your door. If you're registered to a party, it's party business. You should sign the petition. But you've taken it even a step further when you do opportunity to ballot and whatnot. So it's very confusing to the average person. This is a very, very confusing process that sometimes we take for granted, thinking people should understand this. They do not, because they've never been a part of it on the back end like some of us have.
Okay, so that being said, and I understand where you are, and when you look at legislators from a local level, right to an assembly person, right through a Senate, right through a congressional race, right through a state Senate race, right through the presidency of the United States of America. This is where education is failing, because this is the kind of stuff we learned while we were in school. What are the three different parts of government? There are people who don't understand that now. So I think because of my age, I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way, at all. I just think I get, and I don't want to hear, I guess, what I'm trying to say, is that people just don't understand it.
Well, I want to jump.
And I get that, but the reality is that they don't.
If I could just jump in, New York State is peculiar in the sense that the nuances of New York State election law are far more detailed than they are in many, many other states in our country. But that, having said that, Heidi, I run into what you say all the time. I'm circulating petitions now. I'm a Republican committee person. I'm out circulating petitions, and you run into the circumstance where people are sometimes hesitant to sign a petition for a particular candidate because I don't support that candidate. Okay, you don't support.
That's a good
correct.
excuse.
That's a great excuse, but it's also I just want them to understand as well that by signing the petition, you're not voting or committed to vote for that candidate. It's only for them to have a chance to be on the ballot.
And with that said, if they don't sign, and again, I'll play devil's advocate, they're saying, I don't want him to even have the opportunity to be online.
Which is fair. But some people just don't understand that little nuance. Sometimes there are folks out there, and it's not their fault. They're busy, they're working, they're living their lives. New York State has these incredibly complicated and nuanced election regulations.
And you could keep making that as an excuse, and I'll keep going by. That's what. Hold on. That's what it is.
It's a reason more than an excuse.
Well, here,
it's a reason why people don't understand.
So that's why we have bail reform, because we don't care.
Because people in power have taken advantage of it. Of the circumstances being what they are. Like I said, Len, there are. I'm familiar with other states and how it runs. And in other states, they don't have all these nuances. And sometimes these nuances and tricks, tricky regulations that we have in New York State as it relates to election laws, sometimes are there, I believe, deliberately to keep the powers that be the powers that be. And
that's gerrymandering a district.
And the only
right?
way to do it is to try to break through and be helpful. So I try to take the time. Maybe that's why I don't get as many petition signatures.
Right.
I like
understand.
to take my time with the folks and try to help them understand that.
There is no question.
Because you have to understand, people they're raising kids, they're working 2-3 jobs. Their wife's running out to work as they're getting home from work, and the kids are scurrying around trying to get their homework.
Have you ever heard of The Greatest Generation?
Of course. By the way, I know it's the Tom Brokaw book, and they are the hero.
Brian's on it.
The hero.
He's all
they're
over
the
it.
heroes of my world, the World War II generation. But I don't necessarily subscribe to that phrase. We've had some wonderful generations. I happen to think the men and women in our armed forces today are as fine a people as we would ever have, and as good as any prior generation. But it's just, Lennox, it's just so difficult for some people just to get everything, and not everybody lives it the way we do.
Well, let me tell you,
when I was running for legislature, a lot of times I would be all consumed by my campaigns. It's like the only thing I'm thinking about. I'm obsessed about it. I show up on a door.
We cannot lose sight of that. The minute we lose sight of what, the average voter, if we lose sight of that, we're out of touch with them. You can never let that happen.
Well, let me just then say that my generation was the generation of .com, was a generation of making money, that we lived through a couple of different economic times. So we didn't care about politics. We cared about making money. And it's a sad commentary. And I guess that's why I feel education of what we believe in New York State and how our state runs is important. And that's why I repeat this stuff. Because I do believe education.
I agree with you. And I don't think Heidi or I are saying it isn't important. No, it's extraordinarily important.
Well, we can't use that as an excuse.
We're not trying to use an excuse, but you're trying to also use that. But you got to remember, people aren't as... It's not. They don't live and breathe it. They don't live and breathe it. They're scrambling, trying to survive. I go to senior citizens, and by the way, in the last 2 petition cycles, that's where you really get to see the people up close and personal. The conditions under which some of our senior citizens are living in now, it's heartbreaking and appalling to me, and what I've seen just in the last month or so circulating petitions, I've been carrying the petitions within the 7th legislative district in Kingston. That's where I'm focusing my attention, because it's the area I know best. And it just what I've seen, just the diminishment of living standards for some seniors just in the last couple of years, it's just astounding to me since COVID, and the neglect that some of our seniors, as I perceive neglect that some of them are living under. It's really a crisis situation, and that man that comes to my door and he's just doing the best he can to hang on, is senior citizen. I can't expect him to know every single nuance of the election law.
And we need him to.
And I'm not going to walk him through a whole education process, because that poor man, and there's one person I'm thinking of in particular right now, he's hanging on.
Right.
Len, you know what it is like? It's like a Ron Popeil commercial. I always use it.
Oh, I love Ron Popeil.
I know.
Now I'm getting hungry.
They weren't endorsed, but wait, there's more. We can do this.
Right. No.
But there's an OTB or Wilson Pakula.
Oh, Ron Popeil.
Oh, wait, there's more.
I love Ron.
All right, I'm gonna jump off, guys.
Yeah, Heidi, thank you so much.
Heidi, we'll see you soon.
God bless and be
Len,
well,
I have to
Heidi.
talk to you soon. All right, talk to you
Okay,
later.
take care, Heidi.
Bye.
All right, so we got Harry on the line. You want to just go right to Harry?
Please, let's
all right,
go.
let's go right to Harry.
Good morning, Harry.
Hang on 1 second. Good morning, Harry. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Harry. My name is Brian Waltman. I'm one of the co-hosts on this program, and we're with Len Bernardo. Just want to let the listeners know that we're chatting with Harry Wilson. He's a Republican candidate to be the governor of New York State. So we're very honored to have a statewide gubernatorial candidate on the air with us this morning. So Good morning, Harry, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
How's it going? So, time is limited, so I really like to jump in pretty quickly here, because we do appreciate your time this morning. Last Friday, I noticed on your Facebook page that you were in Johnstown, and you featured your first ad from there. I saw that on Fox News. So how does Johnstown define you? What is your vision for New York based on that commercial?
Sure. So, for those who don't know Johnstown's my hometown. It's a small community in Fulton County. Population 10,000 when I was born, about 8,000 today. It's an incredible working-class community that I think really shows the best of New York. We were very tight-knit. We all knew each other. We all looked out for each other. We remain, it's been 33 years since I graduated from high school. I'm still incredibly close to all my friends growing up. My family moved there from Greece. My dad's parents moved there from Greece. My dad was born there, and my mom moved there from Greece 11 months before I was born. And they moved there because at the time it was a very strong industrial area, a lot of leather mills and the like, and it attracted a lot of immigrants who were effectively cheap labor for the factories. And it was a chance for them to achieve the American dream. And so, my whole high school was the kids and grandkids of immigrants who came to work in those mills and make a life. And that's the story of America.
Yeah, it is.
And we were able to kind of, build on that. And, my grandfather and my grandparents, my parents all kind of had, working class jobs. My dad was a bartender at my uncle's restaurant. My mom operated a sewing machine. I was fortunate to be the first of my family to go to college. I went to Harvard and Harvard Business School and been able to build an incredible business career and family. And I think that's the promise of America. And what I worry about all the time is that the mismanagement in Albany by career politicians has made it that much harder for the next generation to do the same thing that I've been fortunate and blessed to do. I have 4 daughters, ages 20 to 13, and for all of us, our kids and our grandkids are everything to us. And I'm just deathly afraid that the mismanagement and bad policies coming out of Albany have made that pursuit of the American dream so much harder. And I'm not going to let career politicians strangle the promise of America. It's totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
Especially when I know I can fix it.
It's really funny. That's going to lead me to a different question, a different direction. But I guess on that same note, we learned in the last couple of days that Lieutenant Governor Benjamin is now subject to some federal probes, some shady campaign findings, right? Which is problematic in itself. But how does it feel to you, and how should we feel as New Yorkers to hear about this type of news every day? And as the political side of you or the politician in you, how do you feel about, and how are you going to make us understand what a clean-up Albany? How can you tell us more how you could restore the faith that as taxpayers, as the day, I joked about a senior citizen, I'm on his fixed income, and how as taxpayers are able to, look at this and have the system a better way, and why is it important to understand what kind of plan you have for it? I mean, it's kind of all intertwined, if that makes any sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're totally right. And I think, it's just unacceptable that we have this long line of elected officials in Albany that are constantly under indictment or investigation or go to prison because of being bad actors. And you have to ask yourself, well, that's not normal. It's not normal in a company. It's not normal in a nonprofit. It's not normal in the vast majority of state governments across the country. So why does it happen all the time in Albany? And the reason is I strongly believe we have a broken system and a culture of corruption and a lack of accountability for our elected officials. And in some cases, we bring the wrong people into public life, and those people do bad things. And in other cases, we have people who probably went in with decent intentions but are corrupted by the culture over time, and then end up falling by, doing bad things and falling by the wayside. And so to me, we have to fix both. We have to get better people into public life, and then we have to have more accountability for people when they're in public life. And so a couple weeks ago, we unveiled the first part of our reform agenda. And the reason we focus on this first is you have to get the basics right. You have to get the framework right before you get into policy. The reason we have bad policies is we have a bad culture of corruption. And so on the first part of getting better people in public life, there was a 6-part plan. I'll just give you a couple of the highlights. It's long, but it's on our website for Harry.
Well, we can go. Yeah, that's fine. But continue a little bit more.
Yeah. So a couple examples are just getting easier ballot access. For example, it makes it very, very hard if you're not an incumbent to get into the system.
We were just talking about that.
Yes. So right now we're in the process of gathering 15,000 signatures statewide. We're way more than that to get on the primary ballot for as a Republican. If I was running for governor of Texas, I would just write one check for $3,750 and be done. And so this whole system is designed to protect incumbents from real competition.
There you go.
We have a total lack of election integrity. Just a couple weeks ago, a newspaper reported that there were 900,000 people in New York City that had bad information of the voter rolls. 900,000. That's like several counties.
Yeah.
And that just
Good point.
undermines confidence on both sides of the aisle and the security of our elections. So again, benefiting incumbents at the expense of real competition. So I believe in competition. I'm a believe in markets and competition makes people better, and I think that's a huge part of it. So and then on the second part on accountability. So there are three pieces to it, but a couple of key pieces. One is term limits. I do not believe they're indispensable people anywhere in life, and I think it's important to have term limits for statewide elected officials of 8 years, and term limits of 12 years for the legislature. You get fresh blood and fresh ideas in, and eliminate the prospects of people becoming corrupt the culture over time. But the second is this ethics watchdog, and so those of you who follow this, Jay Cope is the current so-called ethics watchdog. It's a total joke.
Or called Jay Joke.
Exactly. It's such a more fitting name than Jay Cope, and it's because it's been politicized. It's all the members are appointed by elected officials, and it's totally partisan. So if you're a Democrat or a Republican that has a problem before them, you know that your side's going to vote to defend you. And the way the rules are set up is it basically it allows a minority to dictate the outcome. What it should be, and what most states have, is a professional group that really focuses on ethics, that's not tied to politics, that rotates people through. Governor Hochul said she was going to do something like this, and now it's already the legislature saying, no, we want to be able to appoint all the members, and because they don't want outside scrutiny and oversight. But that's exactly the problem. And someone needs to set them down and say, listen, you are actually hurting yourselves and the state by this. We need a transparent, honest process that people can believe in, that's professionalized, not partisan. And that is actually going to benefit everybody.
Everyone indeed.
Just
so our listeners know, we're chatting with Harry Wilson. He's a Republican candidate for governor of the state of New York, and just wanted to keep our listeners abreast of who we're listening to. Harry, if I could ask you a question, it was in Kathy Hochul. She assumed the governorship last August, and we all know after Cuomo resigned. In the time since August, I was wondering, as a gubernatorial candidate, what specific criticisms would you have of the way or policies that Kathy Hochul has put forth in her time in office so far? What particular criticism would you have right now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest and most disappointing aspect of her first month on the job is that she's seen a continuation of the pay-to-play policies of the Cuomo administration. And what I mean by that is what she ends up doing is she promises lots of taxpayer dollars to special interests. In turn, those special interests give her campaign contributions. And those campaign contributions make her more likely to be reelected because she's sitting on tens of millions of dollars in cash for those special interests.
In fact, she set a record. It was reported in the news. Her campaign, with the last disclosure period, she set a record for amount raised in that time. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So let's take a step back and analyze that. So here's a person who has never raised more than a few $1 million in her entire professional life as a career politician, a few $1 million over decades, and yet she raises over $20 million in 6 months. What changed? The only thing that changed is she controlled the budget. and so at the same time that she's raising a record amount of money from special interests and lobbyists, she is giving out a record amount of taxpayer money, the largest budget in the history of New York. She proposed $216 billion, which is more than twice the budget of Florida, which is bigger in terms of population. And so that is all money that comes from hardworking taxpayers across the state. She could have, I believe, cut taxes by a very large percentage, I think 25% or more, and give that back to the people of the state. But then she's not going to have her huge kitty to buy off special interests. And that's the core problem. So she just continued. That's what Cuomo did as well. But she just continued, and she's actually taken it to a new level of spending and handouts, which is just sort of.
I just want to say this, and I agree with the question completely. And Huckle is part of that. The machine that they say the winner goes all spoils, and this is where she is right now. But I guess in terms of getting to June 28th, the primary, Harry, we talk a lot about it's a hard. New York's in a tough place. We have crime problems. We have affordability problems. We have inflation problems. What could you tell the listeners today on what makes you different than every other Republican candidate in the field? Astorino, Giuliani, Zeldin, Copernelli, yourself. Obviously you all have a similar type of feeling about this. But what separates you from that pack?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, just for context, I think one of the problems with politics is we elect people who say the right things but don't actually deliver, and that's why we have the problems we have. It's people who say the right things but they don't actually deliver. And I would make the analogy to a job interview. If you own a restaurant or own a store or you're whatever your kind of walk of life is, when you interview someone for a job to work for you, you focus on their skills and their history of achievement. Not just what they say, because anybody can talk. And so, as an example, one of my opponents, Congressman Zeldin, he's been a career politician his entire adult life, and in 15 years he's accomplished basically nothing for the people of New York. So, that's the big difference between the career politicians who don't really have accountability or believe in delivering for people, just believe in getting elected, versus my own track record. And so I would say two things. One is, in the last 30 years of turning around failing organizations at the highest levels of American business, coming into situations where everybody said the company couldn't be fixed, overcoming nearly impossible odds, I've delivered consistently for 30 years. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for the people of New York when we turn around New York next year. So that's the first thing. It's just a track record of success of actually delivering on what we say we're going to be able to do and fixing failing organizations, which is what New York State desperately needs. And that goes back to my childhood of overcoming impossible odds in my personal life, but more importantly for the people of this state is overcoming them professionally and be able to kind of fix all these failed organizations. The second part is for Republicans listening and wondering, every Republican in the state has to be thinking about themselves. How can we elect a nominee? How can you get a nominee that can actually win? Because it doesn't matter what the nominee says. The nominee's not going to win, and we're going to be stuck with 4 more years of Kathy Hochul and bad policies.
Right.
And on that front, I've only run for office once before. In 2010, I was the Republican conservative nominee for state controller.
That's how I actually met you, Harry, on that campaign trail.
Exactly. And in that race, my one and only race, it was the best showing for any Republican statewide in the last 20 years by a lot. So I lost by 4 points to a popular incumbent. No Republican other than me has come within 13 points in the last 20 years. So it's not even close. And people say to me all the time, when you ran, Harry, the top of the ticket lost by 32 points. You lost by 4. That's never happened in the history of New York State politics. How did you do it? And the way I was able to do it is exactly the way I'm running my campaign for governor. Data-driven, focused on the facts, focused on things that help working families, and matching that up with my track record of delivering results on exactly what I say I'm going to do. And that turned out to unite the Republican Party, but it also got about 65% of independents and a very large chunk of disaffected Democrats who believe I could deliver for them.
Excellent.
And that's why I think I can win the governor's race this year. And I think I've by far the best chance of any Republican running because I can build on that past success. I'm 12 years older, 12 years more experienced, 12 years better, 12 years grayer than I was in 2010. And that's why I think that's
Brian, let me
why
ask
we'll
one
be able to
follow-up
beat
to this,
Kathy Hochul.
and then you can have it. Yeah, as a quick follow-up to this then, and again, this is a perspective of, and I know you and I know you from 2010, as you suggested. We did several walk-arounds with you through the Indian, as we said, the festival in Westchester. But, throughout your career, and you continued, after that loss in 2010 by that very small margin, you were very instrumental in taking some great companies to better grounds, to better profitable grounds, ones that were failing, quite frankly. You saved countless jobs for employees throughout those companies that were in financial ruin. Obviously, some people may or may not know of what you did for the automobile industry and General Motors and Chrysler and Ford. I think I could have fixed Ford, but too, just to tease you a little bit about. But sincerely, New York has a lot of failing companies, a failing government. How do you plan to take a chunk out of that, real as quickly as you possibly can in your first term, if you win and when you win?
Absolutely. So just for a little bit more context for your listeners who don't know me as well, those companies over those 30 years, they've ranged from companies that have a few thousand employees to some of the largest companies in the world, and General Motors. You said led the restructuring of General Motors back in during the financial crisis. Led the kind of turnaround the largest trucking company in the country, the largest nursing home chain in the country, a whole long list of other industrial businesses. Just in the last 10 years, we've probably saved over 150,000 jobs, and in the auto rescue, probably close to 1 million jobs. So it's been a hugely impactful. And these are all companies that everybody said could not be fixed, that people had given up hope. And what I found is in all these cases, the primary reason was you had failed management at the top that had lost sight of the core mission of the enterprise. And as a result of those failures of senior management, working people across the company were suffering. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the problem we have in the state. We have failed management at the top and a small group, very small group of career politicians who've lost sight of what the purpose of New York State is. And working people across the state are suffering as a result of that mismanagement. So the first thing we do is we say, look, we're going to focus on the core mission. Well, in New York State, it was obviously different from a business. The core mission is to deliver high-quality services at a low cost. Not all services, but services that are best provided by government, and in other cases, basically get out of the way. And we kind of do the opposite. We basically provide very low-quality services. We're at or near the bottom in most categories, in public education and public health, infrastructure, crime, etc. So low-quality services at a really high cost, the highest cost in the country.
Well, we have all these unfunded mandates that are going on. All this stuff has to be looked at. The way schools run. I'll continue to tease you about how senior citizens should be relieved from school taxes, but...
I disagree, but the school taxes should be affordable. Harry, just so the audience again, in case you just tuned in, we're chatting with Harry Wilson. We're fortunate enough to have Harry Wilson on the air with us this morning. Harry is a statewide gubernatorial candidate this year. He's... running as a Republican, and Harry, we're so glad to have you again. It gives our chance for our audience to get to know you. My question is, along with the economy, and the reason I'm jumping in, we're kind of pressed for time here. Everybody is cognizant and aware of the condition of our economy, particularly here in New York State. But one thing we're also very concerned with is public safety. And I'm looking at your circular right now, by the way, looks great. But you have in there that Harry will eliminate cashless bail and fire rogue prosecutors, enforce the law, and hire more police. If you could expand on that and expand on your vision of what the deficiencies are of the current bail reform legislation and what changes you would propose to make to it, and also how you would help support our police. By the way, my son is a sheriff's deputy.
Oh, fantastic. That's fantastic. First of all, thank you to your son for his service. My cousin Bobby was a longtime police officer in our Johnstown Police Department, so this is also very personal for me. We all know, those of us, I think everybody, but particularly those of us who have family in law enforcement know that it's one of the hardest, if not the hardest jobs in the country. And you're always worried about whether your loved one will be able to come home at night. And the service they provide of protecting citizens is one of the most essential government. That's why we have government, is to have safety. And so the fact that some folks in Albany made some very misguided decisions in the last 3 years that have contributed to this massive spike in crime in cities across the state is just unacceptable. So let's talk about some specifics. So,
they're tripling and quadrupling down on it.
They're quadrupling down, and they're not. It's an ideology, not kind of data driven. And so and an example of that is on bail reform, where we're the only state in the country that does not use dangerousness as a standard for assessing bail. The only state. And that is, it's so commonsensical, right? You say to yourself, okay, why do you want, if someone who's committed a crime and you're considering setting bail, obviously one of the questions you have to ask yourself is what sort of a menace is this person to society?
Yeah.
And if the answer is they're not much of a menace, then that's good. But if they are, then obviously you want to do everything you can to keep that person off the streets within reason and protect people. And that's why you see these a lot of the spike in crime is driven by repeat offenders who were out on, out when they should have not been out. And so that's an example of just what I would call common sense. That again, 49 other states do that. So and so that's one. So another thing, there's this effort to kind of amend the discovery process, and this is something that doesn't get a lot of attention because it's a little complicated. But basically, as a result of the changes of the last 3 years, the process of providing discovery to the defendant has become so cumbersome that DAs are not bringing charges because they can't assemble all the material they need to do to meet the standard in the time that they have. And so you have these situations where people 3 years ago would have been charged, and if there was enough evidence to convict, but because they can't pull together, say there are 8 different officers involved, you need footage from 8 different body cams instead of like 7, for example, that then leads to an inability to bring charges and people out on the streets. And that's not talked about at all, but that's part of the problem. So now you have DAs who are trying to do their job, who are overworked, who know what the right answer is, and they can't even bring the person to trial.
Well, there's a morale issue, too, on the officer's side, quite frankly. And some of these guys aren't even making arrests today because they know it's not going to go anywhere. So, at some point in time, it's like, where does it give? And, it's just, then you can look at it from the monetary perspective that you're suggesting is, what is it costing, the justice system to find these people when they don't show up to court?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Another element of this is, dealing with illegal guns. The consequences of having an illegal gun have basically evaporated in much of the state. And so as a result, you have a lot more gun crimes. And, what Mayor Adams has been trying to do is create this plainclothes unit. They bring back what de Blasio, destroyed. And that's a step in the right direction. But that's just another example, kind of common sense work of trying to make sure you target the kind of the biggest problems, and it hasn't happened. Another example. So there's statistics that
sloppy,
50% of the violent crimes happen in about 5% of the neighborhoods, which probably doesn't surprise anybody, but it's borne out by the data. So we're focusing our resources to make sure that those people are protected and safe. They're people in poorer communities who deserve the same safety as everybody in the state, and yet we've let our guard down in the name of these so-called reforms, and yet these people are now suffering and living in unsafe environments. It's unacceptable.
Harry, if I could, again, we're chatting with Harry Wilson. We're coming up to the end of our program. But, Harry, before we go, I would just like to hear from you 2 things. First of all, how can people get in touch with you or learn more about your campaign? And second of all, Harry, as you see it today here, March 31st, tomorrow's April Fool's Day, what's your pathway to victory as you see it, as you sit here this morning?
Sure. So to learn more, people can go to our website, harrywilsonforgovernor.com, or any of our social pages, either Facebook or Twitter. You can sign up for updates, and we'd love to. We are in the process of building a grassroots army to fix the state. And so for people who want to volunteer an hour a week or 3 hours a week or whatever, we'd welcome it. We'd love to do that. So that's the first. The second is your question of the path to victory. Is so first we have to win the Republican primary, and our case to Republican primary voters and then the general election voters is exactly the same. I'm the only one in the race with the skill set, the experience, and frankly the guts to fix the state. I've been doing it for 30 years at the highest levels of American business, and I can do it here in New York and create a better place to live and work for all 20 million New Yorkers. And then secondly, for the Republicans specifically, I'm the only one that has a realistic shot at winning. And that's why we desperately need to win in November. based on both my past success and kind of what I can do for the people of the state. And I think making that case as broadly as possible to all Republican primary voters and all New York voters is what I need to be doing every hour of every day for the next 3 months until the primary and then until November.
Wonderful.
Well, Harry, on behalf of the Kingston Community Radio, Lawrence, myself, everyone here.
Yeah, me too.
I hope, Brian, I hope you come back and visit us again.
Absolutely. Good job, Harry.
Once you get the petitions
well spoken today.
done, it was really nice.
Yes, I was.
nice
I
day.
listened to the whole thing, and I was quite impressed with what you had to say, and I look forward to hearing from you again.
And I hope you come back. And
Maybe if you're in our neck of the woods, we can get you in the studio.
Yeah, hopefully you'll come down here and do a little campaigning, and we can get you here in the studio.
Love to do that.
That'd be great.
Okay, great. Harry Wilson running for governor in November. Harry, have a great day.
Harry, thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, so Harry,
thank you.
Harry Wilson, that was a good show. I tell you, you guys, man, the show's getting better and better. You two were like, I don't even know. You have to come up with a name for your show.
Yeah.
The Political
Lennon Bryan.
Moxie or something.
The
I
Lennon
don't know.
Bryan Thursday show.
Yeah, no.
And we'll be back again next Thursday.
You will, because you guys had to switch with Don Williams.
Great lineup next week.
Yeah, so
by
next
the
week
way.
we got Joe Jenkins again. Hopefully you guys won't trampoline him like you did last week. I'm kidding.
That was me. I
No,
think the
it's all
customer
good.
service
Hey,
issue.
sometimes Central Hudson needs a little kick in the butt,
You
especially
know.
what happened with last time.
Information for our
You know,
listeners.
No, with the ice storm and what the listeners needed some answers. I think they got them last
The
week.
answers to the questions
So
our listeners might have.
yeah, before we sign off, we got about 60 seconds. Joe Jenkins is next week, and Rich Amador, I believe.
We're looking at Rob Astorino, perhaps, so you
Okay,
should
good.
know.
And let's. I had at the KCR breakfast on
Which I
Monday
missed.
or on Tuesday. No big deal. I didn't know that
It
you
was
were in
delicious,
Albany.
by the way. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Cameron Rylance and the guys over at Elks Lodge did a tremendous job. And we got our actually next breakfast coming up is at the Canton Field. We're going to do it outside in Saugerties. Yeah, June 29th. It's on a Wednesday, and Greg Chorvis and Fred Costello will be broadcasting live.
That's a
and
great
that
day.
that is a pavilion is gigantic.
Yeah, it is.
And we'll be able to fit as many people as we want. And Bob Circusano is looking into having someone cater it. So hopefully maybe we'll be able to get Eggs Benedict or
Hey,
something.
you know something? That's the day after primary day.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Harry on.
You know what I was thinking? Maybe we could challenge him. He could sponsor breakfast and come out there.
Well, that doesn't sound like a bad
Do an
idea.
interview.
Hey, and I had a listener. Actually, I had a few listeners ask about getting Mark Molinaro on.
We
so,
can,
Yeah,
there's no
so let's
question.
try to get him on for the for maybe later.
No, you know what we
your
could
next
do?
show after the 7th is the 21st. Let's shoot for the 21st.
Well, I can get Marcus on the 7th and then shoot for Rob on the
all right. So yeah, we got an opening next
Yeah.
week at 8 a.m. Try to get Mark for that.
You got it.
All right, everybody. We got to take
Bye,
off.
everybody. Have a
Bye,
good night.
Brian.
We'll be back tomorrow morning with you and Mario. Have a good day, everyone.